I think Splatoon Raiders ruined Splatoon for me. And I'm not talking about the entire series. I still like the single player adventures with the little missions that you have in the current games. I would not trade those for the world. I still think Octo Expansion is probably my favorite single player experience still. But Splatoon Raiders definitely made me feel a certain way about a specific mode, and I'm talking about Salmon Run. I've talked about this before, but I've never really been a big fan of Salmon Run. I think when it appeared in Splatoon 2, it was cool for a while, but it easily got outplayed for me. I easily got bored, the rewards weren't worth it, and the people that I played with just weren't that good. And Splatoon 3 really put the icing on the cake for me, because pretty much every single team that I had was extremely bad at the game. I never really ever made it past Wave 3 because all my teammates would be dead, and we never took down a King Salmonid ever because all my teammates would be dead. Something else I've never been a big fan of is how it's just 3 waves as you're stuck on this little tiny island, and that's really all you have. There's no progression to go through a stage or anything like that, and after you've seen the different types of Salmonid and all the waves, you've pretty much seen it all by then. Now, there still are some pretty cool salmon events and enemies that didn't make it in the Splatoon Raiders, but still, I just have no, and I mean absolutely no need to ever go back and play Salmon Run ever again after Raiders. Like seriously, everything about Raiders is just an extreme improvement on the formula. I also hate having to go grab golden eggs, rush them all the way back to a bin, and then come all the way back to the fight. I'd rather just fight the Salmonid instead of picking up the gold eggs, which they also removed from Raiders. Sure, they added a bunch of stuff with Splatoon 3, like for instance, the Big Run events where all the Salmonid came into the mainland and actually infiltrated the current multiplayer maps, which was pretty cool, making the stage a lot bigger. But I've always wanted a mode that had this, but with more exploration. Kind of like COD Zombies, where you could unlock new areas and continue to further progress. But Nintendo just took that idea and went crazy with it in Raiders. You no longer have these tight, small little areas, and also you have the option to play completely alone. In fact, it's kind of how the game was intended to be played, with multiplayer as a side thing, and each mission is separated in a different category, and there's like 4 to 5 different categories of mission that you could be playing. They now have missions where, for instance, you can actually make your way to the end of a linear level. There's a couple off the beaten path secrets that you can find, but you're not confined to these small little islands anymore. You have a whole world to traverse and kind of make your way through in order to get to the end of it. You have missions pulled straight from the single player of past games, where you have to use a specific gadget and get through to the very end by doing some type of puzzle or defeating a certain amount of enemies in this really cool puzzle room. It will literally take you straight back to the main campaigns and even Octo Expansion in some areas. There's also missions, instead of going up a tower like in Side Order, you're going down underground like in Donkey Kong Bonanza and Pikmin 2, if you would. These do have the same small arenas that we're used to in Salmon Run, but you're not there for very long. In fact, you're only there for like 90 seconds until the timer goes away or until you collect all the golden eggs and you can go to the next floor or the mission's done. You don't have to see the same layout over and over and over and over again. Odds are you'll only come across this a handful of times depending on how quickly you can defeat the stage. Then you have stages where you need to mine Spiralite. This actually turns the game into kind of a open 3D sandbox game, something like Sunshine or Odyssey, where you have a giant open area to explore and you can go to each area as you please. You can pick which side of the stage to go to. You don't have to spend your entire time here just until your meter fills up with power eggs, but it allows you to kind of freely roam and explore this open section, which feels completely different than anything we've ever gotten. Fighting Salmonid on a huge island this time instead of a small little boat at sea. This is why I love Splatoon Raiders so much, but it's also why I'm a bit worried for the future of Splatoon, because how in the world do they combat this with the next mainline title? You can't just come back again and have Salmon Run. In fact, if Salmon returned in Splatoon 4, I'd be very shocked and confused. We've already had 2 Salmon Run modes, a whole side game dedicated to these guys and their story. Why would they want to continue with these characters? I mean, I haven't even seen the end of the game and how they're going to wrap this up and explain everything, but based off of how it's going, we know already from Splatoon 3's main story that the Salmonid were kind of victims to Mr. Grizz and his plotting, and based off of how it's going so far, it looks like the Salmonid are also maybe under a control of some gold or some light or something at the center of these Spiralite Islands. Like I said, I still have to finish the story, but either way, whether it wraps up their story or not, I'm kind of tired of the Salmonid and all their enemy archetypes, them just reusing the same enemies and assets over and over again for Splatoon 4 now would just feel kind of pointless. So because of this, I think Splatoon 4 needs a complete overhaul, or I'm just not going to care at all about the next Horde mode that they have. And I'm hoping they find a new style of enemy, some type of new minions and stuff to destroy, something completely different. And we could probably make an entire video as to what that could be in the future, but simply adding a new race of creature to hunt isn't enough. They need to go above and beyond and find some unique ways to have this mode be, you know, as fun as Raiders, because why would anyone care when you can go play a mode with so many different level varieties and rewards and options to play? You know, it needs to be something new and fresh again, something to really pull us into, because Raiders, it's done it. It's did the best that Salmon Run could possibly be now. I think if they're going to continue with this Horde mode, whether it is Salmon Run again or something completely different, they need to find a way to integrate some of the stuff in Raiders, like the gadgets for instance, or different tanks that you can use and perks that you can put on. Lots of customization would be so much better. No more random weapons, you can actually choose your kit, loadout, your stats, everything. It needs bigger, more expansive maps, maybe with different objectives instead of it just being golden eggs put in the basket, you know what I mean? Or whatever new item it is and take to the basket. Having the new Salmon Run, or whatever it's going to be called, have multiple different objectives and missions makes the mode more entertaining to return to. It gives you more reason to want to keep playing and grinding. It's been so long since I've even played Salmon Run, so I'm not even for sure if you can play alone. So having the option to even go into this mode alone and not forcing you to play with others online, which is also forcing you to have to rely on others online, which some people just aren't as good at the game, which is going to halt your own progress. Having that option to play alone is so much better. Make the maps a lot bigger and more expansive, and have constant updates to the game, adding new modes to Salmon Run and adding new maps and weapons and gadgets would constantly keep people coming back, and I could find myself having a blast with this. Shoot, maybe even give it a side little story mode that you can complete with people as well, with individual levels and even a final boss and stuff. So kind of like a miniature version of what Raiders is. Regardless, I think Raiders have left a very positive taste in my mouth, but it's also kind of worrying me for the future of Splatoon and what they're going to do with this side mode. I am absolutely loving Splatoon Raiders, and I'm nearing the end, so we'll be talking about all that very soon. If you want to be updated on the end of the game and lore details and tons of other stuff I'm going to be talking about, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Splatoon Raiders. Jesus loves you, and I'll see you in the next one.